Hello, my loves. I've had this for quite a while, and I've been I've been meaning to make a proper video about it. But now it's unusual for me to have niche perfumes, as my subscribers will know. But I have a soft spot for Victoria Minya because one of these perfumes back in, I think it would have been when it first came out, which was maybe 2014 or 15, around about that time. Um, Victoria Minya Hedonist Cassis at that point was briefly my signature scent. And it was when I didn't have many perfumes. It's when I was kind of happier to spend a little bit more money. When I say that, I was happy to spend a lot of money to try and find a scent that smelt like my first ever um, signature scent, which was Nina Ricci, La Bells de Ricci, the original one in the green bottle with the pink lid, and then later that one was renamed Liberty Fizz when they brought out other flankers. And I wore that perfume, I think, for probably 16 years as my signature scent. I had a few other perfumes that I would also wear for kind of nights out. One of them was actually Spicy Delight from that same Nina Ricci range. And then when they discontinued that, I bought up everything I could find. I bought every bottle off eBay. I bought every bottle from every shop I ever found it in. I spent hundreds of pounds hoarding that perfume. But obviously, if you wear a perfume every single day, you're going to run out of it really quickly. So I was trying other things, and this was one of the things that came up that had the closest vibe. I remember buying a little sample of it. And I was like, well, that's pretty close. It's not quite the same. It's not quite as juicy. It's drier. It's sharper. But the general spirit of La Bells de Ricci is in Hedonist Cassis. So I spent like £120 at that time. I think they're probably more about 160 now on a bottle of that. And I wore it for a bit and I did enjoy it, but I just couldn't bring myself to spend that much money on something that I was wearing every day because it was just more than I could realistically afford, particularly at that time. So anyway, that's a very long way to say that Victoria Minya has kind of stayed in my heart as one of the very niche brands that I actually like and sometimes happy to invest in. So for a little while I had a buy me a coffee page because I had some very loyal subscribers, and every now and again they would buy me a coffee, which I think was like £5 or something, maybe 2.50. I can't really even remember. It's not even been that long. This is what happens when you get old. So I put that money towards buying this travel set of Victoria Minya perfumes. Now, she only had 5 perfumes for quite a long time. Much more recently, she brought out the 3 absolute versions of some of the Hedonist perfumes. I think there's absolute Hedonist. There isn't an absolute Cassis, which is fair enough because that's supposed to be a very bright, fresh scent. I don't really know how you'd make an absolute of that without kind of ruining the perfume. But there's now an absolute Hedonist, an absolute Hedonist Rose, and an absolute Hedonist Iris. So, but this is the original, and I just was like, I never had a chance to smell the original Hedonist. I had a sample of the Rose. I had a sample of Eau de Hongrie. And obviously, I used to actually have Hedonist Cassis. So Hedonist and Hedonist Iris were the 2 I hadn't smelt. And I was like, it's so expensive to get an actual bottle of something. I just want this because it's like 5 for the price of 1 bottle. And if you have a big collection, how many perfumes do you need that are like 40ml or plus? So this is the outside. This is the box that covers up the box. Victoria Minya perfumes are very beautifully presented. They should be because they're expensive. But like I said, she's actually very niche and I don't think massively famous. I don't really hear a huge amount of people on YouTube talking about Victoria Minya. So beautiful. So, sometimes you just think, well, it's fair enough that things are that expensive because you're not kind of one of the big companies. So beautiful box. And then within the box, you have in the lid this. And if I take this out, this is a lovely spread with information about the perfumes. Just going to leave that there for a minute. So, as you can see, Eau de Hongrie is kind of the outlier. That's not part of the Hedonist collection. This one I fell in love with from a sample. This is the one that I actually had with these beautiful crystals, the purple crystals. And I also really fell in love with Hedonist Rose from a little sample. I hadn't smelt these two, but this one I was like, oh, I'd love a bottle of this. I mean, look how cool the bottle is. Absolutely fabulous. So Viktoria Minya, it says, as you can see here, it says since 2013. So that's when Hedonist came out. And then I think it was like maybe 2014. This probably 2015, if that's the case. And absolutely gorgeous. Yeah, so Viktoria Minya, as you can see, she's Hungarian. So again, like quite niche. But one of the joys of this is that then you get Eau de Hongrie, which is a dessert wine, a Hungarian dessert wine, which I think is absolutely delicious. I've had it a number of times. I think it's called Tokyo wine. Absolutely delicious. So now, do you want the bottles? The bottles are so beautiful. Okay. Oh, they're gorgeous. It's again like this, all the shininess, the glitter and the gold is going to send my camera completely insane. I say camera, I mean my iPad. But I am going to take these out. So this is how they come. The lids are separate. And I'm going to start with Hedonist, because obviously this is mainly a Hedonist set. So it doesn't actually say Hedonist anywhere on this, but I guess you just have to use the crystals to work it out. And I'm going to put the lid on while I'm doing it, if I can get it out. So beautiful Hedonist with these lovely, what colour would that? That's kind of slightly browny orange colour, beautiful autumnal colour, which is about right, I'd say, for the original Hedonist perfume. So I'm going to look at I do have the notes and the votes from Fragrantica, but obviously it makes sense to look at what's actually listed on here, although by the looks of it I think they're pretty similar, if not exactly the same. So the original Hedonist has notes of rum, bergamot, peach, osmanthus, honey, jasmine, orange flower, tobacco, vanilla, cedarwood, vetiver. Now on Fragrantica, if we look at this, it says that the top notes are peach, rum and bergamot, middle osmanthus, tobacco, jasmine, orange blossom, and then base notes vanilla, vetiver and cedar. So all kind of very sensible, as you would imagine things would smell. Now the votes on this are peach and rum at the top, followed by the osmanthus, the vanilla, and then the tobacco. And I feel like that is exactly what this is. I feel like the notes would suggest that this particular perfume is going to be strong and beastly, and, you know, it's just going to be a little bit of I mean, I do think it has an autumnal vibe to it, but I don't think that it's particularly strong. I think it's actually sweet and pretty and easy to wear. It doesn't smell like a young lady's perfume. Not that I think young ladies wouldn't be able to wear it by any means, but it smells grown up but not mature. I think on card, Hedonist does smell a little bit like a classic old school perfume, but on skin you get this kind of slightly tangy, not sickly peach, and I am so fussy about peach. And then that is followed by this beautiful, rich but light rum. It's just, it smells decadent without being thick, if that makes sense. It's got a light airiness. It's sort of weirdly fresh for how rich it smells. It's kind of like, yeah, you're not going to get that kind of thick, cloying vibe from this. It's going to just smell classy and warm. It's like, The funny thing is about this is there's not a huge amount of stuff that I can currently think of that you could compare it to. Certainly not stuff that I know, but then there's probably more in the niche world that kind of matches up with this. Um, to me, the thing it smells the closest to is one of these other perfumes that I'll talk about in a minute. But it's beautiful. It's exactly my kind sort of deep and rich perfume in that it's light at the same time. It's like deep, rich, but it's not thick and it's not sickly and it's not too heavy. I definitely would want to wear this in autumn, winter rather than like hotter weather, although I think you probably could. I mean, if you like beast modes in like general, I think you could wear this in summer and it would probably be relatively light, but it's not overpowering at all. This is like a very beautiful, it's almost delicate even though it's got those quite robust notes, and I think it's the juiciness of the peach and the general kind of apricotiness of that osmanthus. I think if the orange blossom and jasmine was higher in this mix, firstly, I probably wouldn't like it. And secondly, I think it would make it a little bit more cloying. There's just something kind of lovely about this. And if anything, the kind of closest vibe I could get to this is the Hugo Boss Scent for Her range. Now, the pure accord is like a musky osmanthus, and then the next one, the original one, is kind of that osmanthus with just a hint of warmth from cocoa, and then a kind of syrupy peach, but it's not too strong. I had the intense version of that, so I feel like this one is kind of, if I was going to compare it to anything, that is the thing I think it's probably closest to. But it smells much more expensive. It smells nice, it smells like it's slightly better blended. It smells like the ingredients are better quality. But it's that sort of vibe, I would say. That's the kind of feeling that it gives me. So I hadn't smelt this one until I got this set, and I think it's really beautiful. And I can understand why most of the Viktoria Minya reviews I've seen on YouTube have been this and not the the other in the range. I think this is the one that people generally really, really enjoy, but it's not my favourite from the range. So let's move on. Hedonist Rose. Now, as you can see, this one has the beautiful pink crystals in it, which denotes that this is the rose. So I had a sample of Hedonist Rose and I thought it was beautiful. When I did my rose perfumes video, I did talk about how this might be one of my favourite rose perfumes, but it's very expensive, so I just had the sample. And I did say in that one at some point I was hoping to get this set so I could have this little 15ml of it. But interestingly, since that time, something happened to my nose. More likely something was triggered in my brain and therefore my olfactory kind of receptors have adjusted slightly. The little sample I had, I thought I really liked it. I've worn it before and I thought it was great. And then I got this one and I was like, this dry down smells like tar. And I compared it to what I've got left of that little sample. And yes, indeed, I can smell it in the sun, because I thought, maybe they've changed it. Maybe they've updated it with this modern compound that everyone absolutely loves, this horrible molecule that is ruining all these perfumes for me. No, it was already in there. I think this one is from like 2014, so I don't know if it's the same thing. But unfortunately, I can't wear this one, and I'm extremely sad about it because I was very excited and I did love it. So if I read the notes to you, this is lemon, clove, peach, rose, amber, musk, vanilla, and a cold glass of wine. And I'd say it's white wine. It is beautiful. If I couldn't smell that smell, I would still love it. And it would be it's a very interesting rose because it's a beautiful, relatively dry rose that's brought to life by having that kind of vanilla and peach and that lovely wine without being too sharp or too dry, and the clove in it warms it up. Now I was thinking, oh, maybe the clove is just so powerful, but there's clove in one of the other perfumes here, and I have perfumes with clove in, and I get on quite well, generally speaking, with clove. I've not had that problem. I do think that the musk in this perfume is the musk that they use in really popular perfumes now. It comes up in many things. I smell it all the time. All of the Ariana Grandes, for instance, they all have the same thing. So I'm going to have to pass this one on. This is going to be a declutter, which is amazing because I was absolutely sure that this would be my favourite from this set. But there we go. Sometimes things just don't work out, and unfortunately my nose is very sensitive to certain chemicals, and I can't do it. So this is Hedonist Cassis, as you can tell from these beautiful purple crystals. Very pretty. Now, this is fresh to death. It is crisp, it's dry, it's acidic, but in the best way possible. So the notes in Hedonist Cassis are blackcurrant, grapefruit, rhubarb, rose, fresh cut grass, cedarwood and musk. There is nothing in this that sweetens it beyond the natural sweetness you get with like those fruits. So that natural fructosey kind of fruit sugary warmth, you know. Everything else in here is not particularly sweet. Let me just have a sniff. I've got this on my arm. It's green, it's fruity, it's rosy. It's, like I said, it's a very dry, I would say a dry red rose, you know, one that's kind of velvety, I would say, in here. I really do think that this smells like a rhubarb, blackcurrant and rose perfume, very green, but it definitely does have a lot of similarities to La Belle de Ricci, Liberty Fizz. That one, again, it has greenness. That one's sweeter, a bit more syrupy than this. It's definitely not as dry, but it shares a very similar profile. It's definitely not one that I think is particularly great in winter. I think it needs to be a bit warmer to wear this. Otherwise, I think the sharpness could be a bit like piercing. And I think if you like sweet perfumes, this would definitely be way too sharp for you. And if you like kind of stickier, more syrupy perfumes, this will be too dry. But if you like green scents, then I think that you would love this. The other thing I will say, because it's easier to get hold of, is I have another perfume by Miller Harris. I've just got a little one, and it's called Lost in the City. Has a little pink label. Now that is a rhubarb blackcurrant rose perfume that has a lot of greenness. It's got some sharp, I think it's got citruses in it as well. It is very similar to this. The first time I sprayed it out, before it entirely dried down, I was like, this smells almost exactly the same as Hedonist Cassis. That one actually goes on my skin more rhubarby and therefore actually kind of sweetens up a little bit more than this one, but it's incredibly similar. So Miller Harris is also quite an expensive company, but they are easier to get on the grey market than TK Maxx sell those all the time. That's where I got my little 15ml from. Might be a 10ml actually, but just a tiny little bottle. But yeah, they're very similar. This one's drier, greener, and the rhubarb slightly lower in the mix. But the Miller Harris is so similar. So yeah, I'll just shout that out because that one's definitely easier to get. But this is lovely. Now, let's talk about Hedonist Iris, with the one with the clear crystals. So, Hedonist Iris is one of the ones that I hadn't ever smelt. So I hadn't smelt the original Hedonist and I hadn't smelt this one. This, as it turns out, is my favourite from this collection. Now, I'm not kind of like obsessed with Iris. I do like Iris. I quite like it when it's in its kind of cool form, and I also like it when it's been warmed up by other things. I have probably the closest thing to this, although it doesn't in any way really smell the same, but in terms of how it makes me sort of feel and the general vibe of it. I have a perfume and a backup bottle of it by Vera Wang. It's from the Embrace range and it's called Periwinkle and Iris. And that one I really like because it's got a whipped cream note, a sugar note. It's kind of warmed up by these other elements in it, but it's still got that kind of nice, slightly powdery, kind of soothing iris scent in it. Now this one, Hedonist Iris, I just didn't know what to expect, but I was excited because it has a cocoa note in it. And I can really smell that, and I think it's absolutely delicious. So the notes in Hedonist Iris are bergamot, pink pepper, blackcurrant, iris, cedarwood, cocoa, labdaman and musk. And on my skin, this is a soft and enveloping iris, sweetened beautifully by cocoa, but with a slight freshness from blackcurrant. And that pink pepper is not coming across super peppery to me, and I don't really generally like pink pepper very much, but it is helping to warm this up. So the votes on Fragrantica, they have iris followed by musk and then the blackcurrant and the cacao. See, I would put the cacao above the blackcurrant, but that's how that comes out on my skin. It's definitely musky and it's a beautiful soft musk. A skin-like musk, you know, it's just so pretty. This is the one that if I had a spare £160 just hanging around the place, this is the one that I would get a full bottle of, even though the full bottles are only 40ml, so that's a lot of money for a 40ml perfume. But this is the one that I'm like, I love it. I just love it. I've tried lots of different iris perfumes. I have a few in my collection, but there is something about the cocoa in this that I just think is so gorgeous. This is ethereal, soft, but still very pretty and quite feminine feel to it. Just gorgeous. It might be too light for some people. It's not a strong perfume. In fact, to be honest, I don't really find any of these perfumes to be very, very strong. I think they're all kind of subtle. It's probably one of the reasons that I really enjoy Viktoria Minya perfumes is, I tend to like skin scents. I just think, oh, this is just so beautiful. I'm just looking at it, and I guess I've already made a tiny dent in this one, which means, I tell you what, it's one of those few occasions where if I do actually get through this whole thing and it's easily available for me to buy, I will buy a bottle of it. Or I will ask for, it's more expensive than I normally even ask my husband to spend, but, you never know if he's feeling flush or if he wants to show off or whatever. Maybe I'll ask him for a bottle of this, but only if I get through this, because obviously it's a very expensive perfume and I don't really buy expensive perfumes generally speaking. But yeah, I'm in love. I think it's gorgeous. This is the one that I think is maybe the safest in a way. It's just it's like a heavenly smell to me. It's like an absolutely heavenly smell. So yeah, that one is gorgeous. I love it. And I'm probably not going to try and hoard this one. I'm probably just going to enjoy it, So the other one that I loved before I got this set was Eau de Hongrie. So this doesn't have any crystals in it because this is not part of the Hedonist collection. So this is Eau de Hongrie. Now, Eau de Hongrie is, which I apologise if I am completely pronouncing wrong. This is such a gorgeous scent. It is also very similar to Hedonist. So Hedonist is a bit more tangy. It's a bit more peachy. But I think in many ways they're very, very similar to each other because I think they share quite a lot of similar notes. So this says lemon, grapefruit, clove, jasmine, honey, sandalwood, immortelle, labdaman, musk, tonka bean, and Hungarian tokaji azu wine speciality. Now, I've had that particular wine because I do love a dessert wine, and it's absolutely delicious. I think Tokcha is the brand. Um, I just think it's delicious, and you can smell it in here. And there's no sharp or screechy vibe at all, because even though it's wine, it's like it is warm and honeyed, and it is probably my favourite honey perfume. So, I mean, I would say I don't actually think it smells like Kim Kardashian honey, but that's the only other perfume I have that I really think of as like a honey perfume. That one's very floral. It's got loads of honeysuckle and like mandarin blossom. And I'd say, although it is honeyed, it's a little bit, it's not as smooth. It's a little bit more spiky, and it's definitely a bit more floral than this. But this is so cozy and comforting. This is absolutely a kind of snuggly jumper kind of scent. I feel like Hedonist maybe is ever so slightly more sexy. I'm not entirely sure why. And this one is ever so slightly more cozy. I'm just going to have a sniff of both. So I think maybe what it comes down to in that respect is that Hedonist is maybe slightly more perfumey than this one. This one is a little bit more soft and warm and maybe slightly less obvious. And I don't mean that one is massively stronger than the other, because I think they're both quite light. But I think that Hedonist just has a more traditional perfume smell about it than Eau de Hongrie. I think Eau de Hongrie really just smells warm and beautiful. The honey is so perfectly done in this. There's none of that kind of pissy smell that sometimes you get with honey. It's not animalic. It's just so perfectly balanced with that dessert wine. It's gorgeous. So let's have a look. The votes for this one have honey at the top. I think that's fair. It has the Tokyo wine next in line. I think that's fair. It then has the jasmine and immortelle almost next to each other. I feel like I would put the musk and sandalwood and certainly the tonka bean higher in this. And I think it's the tonka bean that's taking away any of that kind of sharp or screechy or pissy vibe that you might sometimes get with honey. It's like really making it creamier and smoother. Although I mean, would I say this is creamy? Let me smell. There's maybe a very slight creaminess going on here, which there isn't too much of a creaminess in the Hedonist. So I think maybe it's the tonka bean that's doing that, because there isn't tonka bean in Hedonist, so that might be what's going on there. But yeah, this is another one that probably if money wasn't an issue for me, if I was just like happy to spend all my all my money, all my rent money on perfume, then I would love to have a bottle of this. I mean, particularly because, let's be real, it's such a cool bottle. I mean, come on. It's so cool. Hedonist is a honey smell as well. That one's nice, but this one is definitely more honeyed. It's soft, it's smooth, it's sweet, but it's not cloyingly sweet. Again, it's not thick. It's a light honey, which is one of the things I like about Honey by Kim Kardashian. Also, quite light and not quite as syrupy as some honey perfumes could be. So there you have it. That's my little review of my Viktoria Minya travel set. So this is Hedonist Rose, Hedonist Cassis, Hedonist Iris, and this is Eau de Hongrie. I think they're beautiful perfumes. Most of these will be staying with me. And I mean, the thing is, Hedonist and Eau de Hongrie are really, really similar. So whether I need to keep both of those, I haven't really decided yet. I'm definitely keeping Eau de Hongrie because that is my favourite of the two. And I adore this perfume. Hedonist Iris is beautiful. It's absolutely stunning. You can see it's the one that's got the dent. So that tells you that it's my favorite of this batch. But yeah, I mean, I would say if you can I got these from Scent City, which is a London perfume company. They had to order it special in from Viktoria Minya. You can get it directly from her website, but if you're in the UK, it's going to cost you quite a lot of shipping to get it from the EU now. So Scent City is probably the sensible way to do it because you can get free shipping, which kind of balances out the fact that it's slightly more expensive from them. So I really recommend, if you like niche perfumes, then I highly, highly recommend these. If you are not a niche kind of perfume, then I can say, if you want something a little bit like one of these, then again, like, I don't think this really smells like anything that I have like properly, but if you want a cheaper alternative that gives you maybe a bit of a vibe of it, I would say Kim Kardashian Pure Honey for either of these. I would say for the Iris perfume, I would definitely say Vera Wang Embrace, Periwinkle and Iris, for that kind of warm iris sweet vibe. For Hedonist Cassis, actually, what I would go for, because the Miller Harris, like I said, the Miller Harris Lost in the City is quite expensive as well. The other thing that has a little bit of a vibe, but it's much sweeter and more syrupy, is Herbe by L'Occitane. So that could be a good option if you're interested in that kind of thing. I don't really know what to suggest for this rose because I don't think I've ever smelt anything that smells like it. Yes, it's the only one that I'm drawing a blank of because I don't think I've smelt a rose that's particularly like it before. And unfortunately my other favourite rose perfume is Stella, by Stella McCartney, which is very much discontinued. Yeah, so anyway, I've been waffling on for ages. I've been meaning to do this for ages. This is my little collection and probably the only proper niche perfumes you're going to see in my collection, to be honest, but worth it because they are pretty special and Victoria Minya perfumes are really quite special.